Following another brutal loss for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Craig Berube has come out and absolutely called out and blasted his first line. And it is getting really crazy over here in Leafs land as the team is slowly falling apart. We're going to break down exactly what Craig Berube's comments were, as well as discuss multiple huge updates from the game, including a brutal injury update surrounding Chris Tanev. A ton to go over on this episode, as well as some comments from Stolarz following his initial calling out of the team just a couple nights ago. But before we get into it all, if you're part of the 70% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is a place to be for daily Leafs content. You guys have been absolutely fantastic with the support. Darius, another brutal Leafs loss, which means Craig Berube now has officially called out this team, and it's gotten to a point where things are starting to not hit rock bottom by any means, much too early for that, but fall apart a little bit, at least from the outside looking in. But let's start with a couple different things here now. I want to start with some updates. You're going to want to stay tuned to the end of this one. And of course, we're at a point now where people are calling the Leafs out. And let's go with Steve Dangle and what he has to say first, because this kind of encompasses the entirety of what the fan base is feeling and what Craig Berube is feeling. Again, what are the Leafs? What do they do? The goalie gave a cry for help and the crease is still open. He talks about lack of physicality. He talks about everything here. And you even have reporters coming out and getting, I guess, upset at the fact that the Leafs don't have an identity. Before we dive into Craig Berube's comments, absolutely ripping the team, Darius, what are your thoughts on, again, Steve Dangle calling them out? You have some other reporters here on TSN basically asking the same thing. And I'm almost at the point where it's a very good question, because I don't know what the answer to that is either. And this is all coming off of Stolarz calling out the team, but also starting his sixth game in 7 games to start the year. He's getting put in the fire, and maybe it's starting to wear him down a little bit as well.
A cry for help is the way I would put it at this point, because, you have a goaltender like Steven Valiquette, former New York Rangers goaltender on Real Kipper and Bourne yesterday, coming out and saying that he wouldn't have done that if he was Anthony Stolarz. You keep it in the room. Well, I'm sure they have been keeping it in the room. I think it was time to bring it outside of the room. And I get it. Like, you want to fight for each other. You want to keep stuff like that in the room. You don't want to call out teammates and stuff like that in the media, especially in this market, because we know how crazy it can get sometimes. But there is a point. I think this guy is calling for help, Anthony Stolarz, and he continues to get run. He's not getting help. The team is not playing with any effort right now. And I think not only him, but Frank Corrado also mentioned that. Maybe you keep it in the room. I think that he's just done. He's upset, right, at this point. And then you have other people as well coming out, other reporters. You have Steve Dangle, you have Jeff O'Neill coming out and questioning. And I think this is the worst thing if you're a team, the absolute worst thing, questioning what your identity is, that you don't have one. That is probably the worst thing in the entire National Hockey League if you do not have an identity. And, a lot of people were questioning the Habs a couple of years ago. They don't have an identity. How are they ever going to go anywhere? They finally figured it out. But, man, like, they didn't have one for a while and they looked horrible. The Leafs this year do not look like they have one. And I think the biggest reason for that is because the top guys are being asked to do something and they aren't doing it. So why, if you're playing on the third and the fourth line, would you do it? Right? You have to lead by example. If you're a captain, if you're wearing a letter and you're being asked to do something, you must do it. And if you don't, then the rest of the team is going to follow suit. You are the leadership group. And it's been this way for so long. And a lot of people are saying now they're missing Mitch Marner, all of this stuff. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with gaining the zone on the power play. If people are now calling your identity into question, you are in trouble. So the Leafs have to figure this out. They have to figure it out fast. On the other side of things, I know a lot of people are saying, how could you lay an egg like this right after the Blue Jays went to the World Series? Listen, different situations. Jays are going to the World Series. This is October for the Leafs, where they notoriously suck. But you have to keep things in perspective too, that, this has been an issue for some time now, and you have to figure that out. And the top guys are the ones that are going to get them out of it and have to lead the way.
Yeah, and obviously, you look at some of the comments from Craig Berube here, and if you read and listen to the full interview, he goes a little bit harder, but let's go with this. He liked Matthews' line earlier in the season. We saw the praise that was there. Now, it's obviously not good enough. I don't feel like they have any sustained pressure in the offensive zone at all. He also basically came out and said that he doesn't really know what his team is doing. He asked the blue line to come out and actually, make aggressive plays. They're just standing around looking. All these different things. And he said in experimenting of all the wingers, all these different things, I'm getting tired of it, to be honest with you. And I mean, I'm not going to blame Craig Berube. You can see here, the defense, and Craig Berube came out and directly called out the defensive stars as well. And this is a good point of it, saying essentially that, again, he's basically calling them lazy without saying lazy, because that would be a bit too hard for the media, I'm sure. But it's very rare, and I don't even remember in the Sheldon Keefe era, maybe a couple times, where he called out directly the Austin Matthews line. Now, he was, of course, asked about it, but he said, not good enough, no offensive pressure. And he also said he has no idea why they're playing so bad. He's going to try to figure it out. But Craig Berube is very, very tired with it, and he's going to have to figure out that top line because they don't have a top 6 forward that they can just throw in there. They tried Domi. I guess it didn't work, and top line looked even worse. And then the defensive side of things, Berube also called him out and blasted them. And when I say blast, I don't mean he went out and started swearing at them. But in the hockey world, when you call out people like this in the media, not usually taken too well by the players. But I think in this case it will be because they know they're playing, horribly.
Yeah, and I get the point that everyone's making as well about keeping it in the room, but sometimes I think you need a kick in the pants in public, right, to get going here. So I think there is a little bit of that. If everyone can remember back to the Mike Babcock days, I feel like he made some decisions sometimes that was kind of a slap in the face to whoever the GM was, making some odd decisions because it was a cry for help. Please get me a player for this position. I wonder if Berube is kind of doing that right now. I'm not saying it was a shot up top to management to Brad Treliving. I'm sure they talk every day and all of these things, but I think that it's a little bit of a cry for help in terms of maybe it is time for a trade. Maybe we do need to get somebody in there instead of playing musical chairs all the time with players that, we can't find any synergy with. So it's pretty interesting. Listen, the onus on that line is on Matthews and Nyes. They are great players. You got to get going here. You should be able, I don't care who's on that right wing, you should be able to sustain offensive zone pressure instead of everything being off the rush, one and dones, all of this stuff. And not only that, just being pinned in your own zone and giving up opportunities like this one. So I think that, they just need to get going here. They need to lock in. I'm glad that this is happening now because a lot of people are talking about how this is maybe too early, stuff like that. Like there's a lot of opinions flying back and forth. Why wait until January to figure this out? You see a problem. All of them do. Stolarz is talking about it. Berube's talking about it, right? And the top line hasn't been good. Figure this stuff out now so then you can go and cruise through the rest of the regular season and finish in a playoff spot. So I do like it in that regard. So a lot of interesting stuff happening around the team right now. And Nick, we also have an injury update to get to, which just makes things so much worse on the back end.
Yep, Chris Tanev, you can see here, he left, hitting the kind of, I guess it was like head-on-head collision in his upper body in the game. Chris Tanev left the game in the second period, is out for the rest of the night. And you can see here, it could possibly miss some time as well. We'll have a full video covering the report, I assume, tomorrow. They do have a back-to-back coming up, so we'll probably hear some more updates tomorrow. I don't believe they're skating today, so that'll be
Optional skate.
Yeah, optional skate. So do you have any thoughts on the Chris Tanev injury? I can't imagine this team getting worse defensively, and their best defenseman arguably here is out. And I'm going to keep showing this picture because that was, now again, this is kind of cherry picked, but at the end of the day, and I don't like Sid Sixero's tweets or really him, but it is what it is. He's not wrong here. The offense has been rough. Chris Tanev going to be gone for, miss some time. That usually means a couple of weeks, but again, hopefully Scott Laughton comes back soon. Obviously not a defenseman, but can help provide some sort of boost to this team.
I appreciate Sid. It's always nice to have different opinions out there when talking about the Leafs. But I think for Chris Tanev, this has to be something significant because Chris Tanev doesn't miss time. He's that type of player, right? He plays through like incredible injuries. So it has to be something significant. I'm not going to speculate on what it is, but this is bad news for the Leafs because I don't know how you could get worse defensively right now. And this is their best defensive defenseman. So hopefully he doesn't miss much time. They have a back-to-back coming up, which the start dates have actually changed for a lot of games this week and heading into next week. So look out for that as well. But yeah, hopefully he's back and the Leafs are back at full strength and getting going here. And I'm glad that they're doing this and trying to iron this out early in the season because, if it continues, it will absolutely be a problem.
Yeah, let us know what your thoughts are. And yeah, their full practice today was converted to an optional skate. So wonder who shows up for that one. Hopefully everyone. That'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching.